Welcome to the Rittner Floral School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into our classroom today because we've got a really neat demonstration planned for you. The theme, fun, funky, high style, contemporary, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. Notice we've got an interesting container here. It's kind of a plastic resin kind of container. I've used this container before. It's really cool. It's got some kind of neat colors, particularly for the fall of the year. And we're going to do some really neat things with this. First of all, let's use one of my favorite flowers, Bells of Ireland. Isn't that beautiful? It's coming in so nicely, and I like the fact that it often comes in with these kind of weird and funky kind of curves. So I'm going to make use of that, and you can see that this thing is going to be big, because as soon as you start playing with something like this, look at how tall it can be. It really can be quite large. And that's one of the beauties of Bells of Ireland. It curves, it moves on you, it gives you this kind of weird, funky effect, and it makes a big design right from the get-go. Let's add more of our Bells of Ireland to this design. Let's take a second one, see how that's kind of curving out over there. Let's take another one, and we're going to take a third one of our Bells of Ireland. I'm going to cut this one down a little bit smaller and put this one over here. So notice how this is gradually developing. That's the beauty of some of these flowers. They're big, they're showy, and you can do some wonderful things with them very, very quickly. And because they have these weird curves and they move around this way, you get a really, really funky effect, and you don't have to work too hard to achieve it. Now notice another one. And let's take still another one. Hey, we're really on a roll here. So we got something, I'm going to move this one slightly downwards. So we've got something here, 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 swinging around over here. That's interesting. But let's work something now a little bit more forward on this kind of thing. And to do that, I'd like to use a product that is really, really cool. This stuff is called Winterberry. Winterberry. Now normally you wouldn't expect us to be mixing it with Bells of Ireland, but that's part of the fun in terms of doing something that's fun, unique, and contemporary. So let's take some of our winterberries and let's break them down and start using some of them in our design. And we can take sections of winterberry and work it in, and it gives an interesting effect. It gives texture, it gives interest to our piece, and it's going to give us some contrast with what we have already going on here in terms of our Bells of Ireland. Incidentally, these winterberry, or ilex they're also called, are made available courtesy of the folks at Blooming of Beloit in Beloit, Wisconsin. They're an incredibly wonderful material to play with, and they really give an interesting effect to our designs. And so notice that with taking some of these materials and working them in, I can really come up with something that is kind of interesting. Let's take another section and work another section in over here. So I'm really playing with this concept of mixing our Bells of Ireland with these blooming materials, these berry materials, which really give a kind of a funky effect to our design. Well, that's interesting. Now what else can we do on this? Well, we've got a lot of activity going on here. This is kind of shooting out over here, but let's get even more dramatic. Hey, how about a glad? Gladiolas. I think that glads have a bad rap. A lot of people think in terms of gladiolas and automatically think in terms of sympathy design. I say let's reclaim the glad as an interesting flower because it's linear, it gives us great line, you can do some really cool things with it, and notice with a couple of glads shooting off here, we're balancing what we have going on over here on this design. Gives an interesting effect, doesn't it? Now, so far we've been working on the extremities and we're kind of working in towards the center. So let's add something interesting as we work in towards the middle of the design. And to do that, well, I'm going to take advantage of another of my favorite flowers, lilies. Lilies are always pretty, they're showy, and taking a few that happen to be open, I can take these, work them in, and come up with a very, very pretty focal area to my design. And notice how that's fitting in so nicely. Let's take one more of our lily flowers and work it in over here. And notice that really comes together, bringing our eye from up here down in, flowing in. I'm going to move this one just a little bit closer to the flower right here. So now that fits very, very nicely together. Now, obviously, on any of these things, we have to do what we call covering the mechanics. Covering the mechanics is a very fancy way of saying that we don't want to let the foam show, that it's considered good workmanship to cover it up. And I'm going to use a little bit of my moss material to do that. And I'm attaching it in here so that it'll stay very nicely for me. What do you think, my viewer? Is this a fun one, or is it, huh? I'm having a great time here because I'm using some interesting materials. It is really neat when we want to come up with something funky and interesting to mix unusual materials together. And if you think about it, on this design, we have a very, very interesting combination of things. We've got our bells of Ireland, which give a really interesting effect, yet we're contrasting our bells of Ireland with these wonderful berry materials, this ilex, the winter berries, and then we're mixing it with some of our gladiolas, and then also with our lilies. Overall, we end up with a high-style linear design that is very, very unique, contemporary, lots of use of both negative space as well as positive space. It gives a really funky and interesting effect. Now, the colors I'm using here are obviously good for the fall. But if I change this just slightly, if, for example, I went with, say, some of my red and pink lilies, or red and white lilies here in the center, or perhaps with some white or red gladiolas, this could easily be turned into, and with, of course, a different container, this could easily be turned into something for the Christmas season as well. So I think you can see this thing has great possibilities. It's a beautiful design and really easy to do, and that's the whole idea. We hope that you enjoyed this brief demonstration here at Rittners Floral School. At Rittners, we have long courses, we've got short courses, we've got day and evening programs. We enjoy teaching people the art of floral design. Floral design is fun, and it's a wonderful, wonderful expression of art. And we hope that you very much enjoyed this brief demonstration. Come back and visit more of our video sessions. For Rittner Floral School, I'm Dr. Steve Rittner. Thank you.